72 hours. That's all the time Jay-Z had before the decade-long wall of silence he'd built around himself began cracking wide open in public view. A federal judge has now issued a ruling that compels one of the music industry's richest and most powerful figures to confront a question he's spent millions trying to avoid. At the heart of this storm stands Rymir Carter, a 32-year-old man from Philadelphia who refuses to back down. For 13 long years, despite repeated dismissals, jurisdictional fights, and what he describes as courtroom tactics designed to wear him out, Rymir has chased one simple truth that could shake the foundations of a billionaire's carefully crafted image. The ground is shifting under Sean Corey Carter's feet. This is no longer a hidden legal battle buried in sealed files and technicalities. It has exploded into the open. A judge has ruled, and a July 18th deadline now looms over hip-hop's self-proclaimed king, with intense scrutiny closing in from all sides. 50 Cent is reportedly financing the legal push. A documentary is being developed. Social media has become a public courtroom. The more layers you peel back, the clearer it becomes. This could mark the most significant challenge any major figure in the genre has ever faced. The attached allegations go far beyond career damage. They carry potential consequences that could shatter legacies, fracture business ties, and even invite federal-level criminal review. Everything is speeding up now, and no one is hitting the brakes. To understand the scale of what's unfolding around Jay-Z, go back to 1992 in Philadelphia, long before the Rockefeller empire, the Def Jam leadership, Beyoncé, or the vast business portfolio. Sean Carter was still grinding in the underground scene, building the street reputation that would later fuel his global myth. According to accounts from a woman named Wanda, their paths crossed in Philly around that time. She claimed that Jay-Z, then known on the streets as Rock, picked her up and drove her from Philadelphia to an apartment in Brooklyn at his aunt's place. She was 16 years old at the time. 16. Pennsylvania's age of consent is 17. And the alleged act of moving a minor across state lines from Pennsylvania to New York opens up an entirely separate layer of legal risk that goes well beyond any paternity issue. This moves the discussion from tabloid territory into potential federal territory. Roughly 2 weeks after that initial meeting, per Wanda's version of events, Jay-Z returned once more, then disappeared completely. He left no contact details, no way to reach him, and a pregnancy that resulted in the birth of a son named Rymir. Rymir Satterthwaite entered the world in 1993. For much of his early childhood, another man, Robert Graves, appeared on the birth certificate as the father. Rymir grew up in Philadelphia without knowing the full story until his mother eventually sat him down and revealed what she had carried for years. She repeatedly told him that Sean Carter was his biological father, embedding the name so deeply that he could no longer ignore it. When Robert Graves took a DNA test in 2011 and was ruled out as the biological father, the result didn't just erase a name from a document. It triggered a chain reaction. Wanda had always maintained that only 2 men were involved during the relevant period, Robert and Jay-Z. With Robert excluded, the focus turned squarely to the man who had by then risen to immense wealth, power, and cultural status. Rymir filed his first legal action around 2010. What followed was anything but straightforward. Filing after filing hit procedural roadblocks. Cases were tossed on technical grounds, refiled in new jurisdictions, and bounced between courts in ways that Rymir and his family say were engineered to drain their resources and break their determination. The core of the jurisdictional disputes centered on whether Jay-Z had property connections in New Jersey that would allow those courts to hear the matter. His legal team argued there were none, but Rymir's side presented documentation they claim proved otherwise, alleging that evidence of those ties was deliberately hidden to keep the case moving between venues where it could be dismissed on procedure rather than decided on substance. This aspect turns the situation from a private family issue into something that smells of systemic manipulation. Rymir hasn't only been battling Jay-Z, he's been up against what he and those close to him describe as a system weaponized against someone whose only request is a simple DNA swab and lab analysis. Rymir's godmother, Lily Coley, adds another layer that shakes the entire story. She claims that in the early phases there were signals from Jay-Z's circle that the matter might be resolved privately. Conversations allegedly took place about possibly supporting Rymir's music ambitions, perhaps tied to Jay-Z's label. She portrayed it as recognition of his talent, a goodwill gesture, or an effort to settle things quietly and keep everything out of the spotlight. According to Coley, the tone changed once different lawyers got involved. What might have started as negotiation hardened into all-out conflict, stretching the battle across more than a decade. The implication is clear. The early willingness to engage hinted at an acknowledgement of the claim's possible merit. The later aggressive legal defense suggested fear of what confirmation in court could mean. The timeline's math is unforgiving and carries implications that legal maneuvers can't erase. If Wanda was 16 when she became pregnant and Jay-Z was reportedly 22, the age gap and the cross-state transport create a web of potential liabilities that make a DNA test the smallest concern for those trying to contain it. Pregnancy calculations are precise. Reimer was born in 1993. A full-term pregnancy lasts about 40 weeks, placing conception around 1992, when Wanda would have been 15. Pennsylvania's age of consent is 17, and the alleged transportation of a minor across state lines brings in broader legal frameworks that reach beyond any single state's authority. This underlying reality fuels every legal tactic, every jurisdiction fight, and every procedural dismissal. It explains what looks from the outside like an outsized legal effort against what should be a straightforward request: take the test. Reimer has spoken openly about the personal cost. He says he just wants the truth. He has repeated that he's not after money, holds no grudge, and could live with a negative result. What he can't accept is the ongoing silence from the man who supposedly holds the key to a question that has shaped his life since he was a teenager. Medical history from the paternal side remains unknown to him, a real health concern. He describes himself as someone who earns everything he has and has never sought financial help. To him, this fight is about basic self-understanding that every person deserves. The exhaustion in his voice after 13 years of battling what he sees as a system stacked against him is unmistakable. He simply wants to know who he is, yet the opposition arrayed against that knowledge is overwhelming. Enter 50 Cent, and the dispute escalates from a legal matter into a full cultural phenomenon. Curtis Jackson has never been one to watch from the sidelines. Reports indicate he's covering a substantial part of Reimer's legal costs, not as charity but as strategy. It provides oxygen to a case starved by unequal resources and sends a loud message across the entertainment world. This goes beyond the courtroom. 50 Cent is reportedly producing documentary content that links this paternity battle to wider legal issues involving top music industry figures. Names, timelines, and allegations are being gathered and prepared for wide release. For a man who built an empire on untouchability, a rival funding the public exposure of his most guarded secrets creates a threat that wealth alone can't fix. The optics are striking. 50 Cent is a major artist, producer, and media figure with reach into tens of millions. His posts about Reimer hit hard and spread fast. His core message, take the test, has become a relentless challenge to the defenses Jay-Z built. Public discussion has pulled Beyoncé into the orbit as well, adding further complexity. Online voices have speculated about possible behind-the-scenes efforts to keep the story quiet. Lily Coley has mentioned an alleged interaction involving someone from Beyoncé's circle who reportedly dismissed Reimer and told him to leave. Whether verified or not, these stories have drawn Beyoncé into a narrative she didn't create and can't easily control. The internet has made her part of an equation she never authored, sparking debates about awareness or involvement. For a brand built on precision and control, this uncontrolled conversation creates a crack that no team can fully repair. The Carter image, long presented as a symbol of excellence and partnership, now faces examination it never expected at this level. The current volatility comes from multiple forces aligning at once. The judge's ruling advancing the case, the July 18th deadline, 50 Cent's backing and media machine, the documentary in progress, the social media firestorm, renewed focus on old allegations, and a cultural shift where powerful men facing concealment claims face unprecedented public pressure. The entertainment landscape is changing. Figures who assumed certain foundations would remain untouched are finding the terrain unstable. The legal claims about the judicial process itself demand attention. Reimer and his family describe encounters with judges and attorneys as coordinated obstruction. They allege fraudulent documents, overlooked irregularities, and a system manipulated to reach a predetermined result. If any part of these accusations holds, the stakes go far beyond one paternity question. At issue is whether an ordinary citizen with limited means can get a fair shot when facing an opponent with unlimited legal resources and institutional connections that can tilt the scales. Reimer's determination against what he calls systemic barriers resonates with anyone who has felt justice was out of reach. Physical resemblances noted by observers, nose, mouth, brow, hairline, build, have fueled public comparisons and created a strong presumption in many minds, even without genetic proof. Every characterization of this as harassment or refusal to engage only strengthens the perception that the resistance stems from fear of confirmation. Wanda reportedly passed away during this prolonged fight. According to Reimer and his family, she was on the phone with a judge pressuring her to stop filing when she collapsed and died. The image of a mother fighting for her son's right to know his identity until her final moment strips away any remaining detachment from the story. It highlights the human cost of challenging power from a position of weakness. Jay-Z's representatives have labeled this harassment, but to many, that framing feels tone-deaf given the circumstances. A woman died pursuing a truth that a simple test could settle in days, while the man who allegedly held the answer chose lawyers over science. The potential fallout for Jay-Z's empire is enormous. His marriage to Beyoncé, Roc Nation, streaming ventures, liquor brands, investments, and role as hip-hop's leading voice all rely on an image of strength and control. A confirmed result wouldn't just add a name to the family tree, it would reframe years of public statements about family and integrity, inviting deeper scrutiny of every related story. In today's environment where information spreads freely and suppression is harder, the old strategy of deny, delay, and deflect may be reaching its limit. 50 Cent approaches this with calculated precision, building a media and legal framework to prevent burial or procedural shutdown. Every dollar spent on legal help also fuels content for his platforms. His public statements keep the story alive, and the documentary could turn the proceedings into a widely consumed cultural moment. For Jay-Z, this combines his biggest concerns: an adversary he can't outspend and a media force he can't silence. Public reaction reflects a shift in how allegations against the powerful are handled. Crowdsourced discussion, real-time testing of denials, and backlash against perceived suppression have replaced controlled press management. The repeated question across platforms, "If he's not your child, take the test," cuts through all the complexity. It reduces years of maneuvering to a simple binary that anyone can judge. The sustained refusal, despite massive legal spending, speaks volumes in the eyes of millions. The July 18th deadline adds structure to what felt endless. Jay-Z's response will face intense examination. 50 Cent's involvement guarantees amplification with little filtering. Reimer shows no sign of quitting. He said he'll fight another 10 years, 50 years, or to his grave if needed. In a world where the powerful often rely on wearing down the less resourced to protect secrets, such unwavering resolve is a powerful counter. The conversation isn't fading. Pressure continues to build with every post, every cycle, every new detail from a story spanning over 30 years. At its core, a potential DNA result exists that could answer everything, confirm or refute the entire narrative. The only barrier is one man's willingness to provide a sample. That ongoing refusal has become its own judgment for countless observers. This isn't disappearing, it's gaining momentum. The outcome could reshape not only Jay-Z's legacy but also standards of accountability for influential figures across entertainment. The precedent set here may echo for generations.